Welcome to the latest edition of Travel Mall TV, coming to you from Marbella in the south of Spain, where the 2006 ABTA convention is being held. "1,600 delegates are in the Marbella Convention Centre, and this exclusive online video coverage is brought to you by TravelMall.com in association with its broadcast partner, utravel.com.
uTravel are very happy to be a sponsor of Travel Mall TV. We're a very recently launched online resort accommodation only provider. We have now direct contracts with over 2,500 hotels, predominantly in the east and western Mediterranean, but as far afield as Dubai. We have a range of 4 to 5 star all-inclusive hotels, right the way down to self-catering apartments, Nile cruises, hotels in Egypt, and many other, most of the mainstream resort accommodations or resort areas that you'd expect to find.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Skidmore and welcome to another week on Travel Mall TV. We're at the ABTA convention here in Marbella, and it's the biggest event in the travel industry calendar. And for the first time ever, we'll be bringing you rolling day-by-day coverage of the key points and talking to the main personalities involved in making the news.
With a strong Spanish theme underpinning the convention, there's been a full programme of debates and information sessions with keynote speakers, including the Easy Group founder, Stelios Hadjiianou. But the session got off to a controversial start, with delegates first of all discussing the role that ABTA plays within the travel industry.
We're in the convention hall, and there's a debate going on right now behind me about the future of ABTA. Now, in our programmes, we'll cover both sides of the argument, but in our first show, we're going to let the critics have their say.
And those opening exchanges have made headlines across the travel world. ABTA winning industry-wide praise for tackling the issue of the organisation's future, but also coming under fierce attack from a panel that included David Speakman and Paul Evans, among others.
Which is David Speakman, the founder of Travel Counsellors. Today we've been debating the future of ABTA. David is a very outspoken critic of ABTA, and he detailed how the association has lost £11 million in the last 7 years just on fraud alone. David, an unacceptable situation?
Of course. Just let me clarify, I'm not in ABTA anymore, and we got out for a few reasons, but one of the things is, I just think that they have a knack of losing money, and if you've got an association and you're paying money into that association, and the association admits after 7 years that it's lost £11 million, but it's never admitted 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago that it's losing money by fraud and it's not plugged the gap, it is dysfunctional, and you have to really plug those gaps. That's what any business would do, and the association has a duty of care to its members to plug those gaps.
Well, it's called the Association of British Travel Agents. Is it still representing agents?
I think it represents agents when it fancies it. I think basically it's more of a tour operation vehicle. And that's what I said. Travel agents must either get involved, have get their voices heard, or alternatively leave. And if they leave, they just should remember that there's £15 million of their money in the till, and they should make sure they get that before they leave, before any lobbying starts. I think travel agents are the lifeblood of the industry. I think it is now a golden age for good travel agents who look after the customer, who give added value to the customer, and therefore I believe that travel agents should have a voice, and they should have a voice within ABTA, and at this moment in time they don't.
With me is Gillian Wait, a travel agent from Manchester, from Pole Travel. Gillian, what's your view of the way ABTA's conducted itself?
My view is that David Speakman made a real lot of good points, and ABTA has lost its way, and if they don't listen to what he said today, it will be the end of ABTA. It's the Association of British Travel Agents, and when I ring up, they don't know what a travel agent does.
Everyone else seems to be cutting back. ABTA hasn't. Do you think it's about time they reduce some of their staffing levels?
They certainly need to reduce the staffing levels because travel agents are not going to keep paying it. They're not going to keep putting up with it.
ABTA operate a very high-cost head office right in the centre of London. I would question the need, with communications and emails and everything else, the need to be in central London. I mean, that must represent a very high cost. And I also believe that they do need to look at the restructuring of ABTA and the number of people in the office because, I'm sure that some savings can be made. Everybody else is having to make savings. All the major groups, all the major tour operators, everybody's looking to reduce their costs. ABTA should do the same.
The first debate was about the future of ABTA. What did you feel about it?
I thought it was a very interesting debate, and there were a lot of relevant points coming out of that. What really encouraged me a lot was the fact that there's still so much confusion over the travel agents being at risk if they put together their own package, and they could even be taken to court, so they said at the debate. And XL Holidays, being a package company but also being able to dynamically package, having atoll cover, the agents can actually use a product straight out of our brochure with no risk whatsoever because we have full atoll cover. So whilst a lot of the trend seems to be for people to put together the dynamic packaging, there is still a market for people that don't want to take the risk on the putting it together themselves and perhaps being opposed to the atoll regulations.
So you cover people, but it is very confusing, isn't it, whether agents can put together their own packages and need atoll protection or not. It's very confusing.
It's certainly confusing, and I do agree with the panel when they said that there definitely needs to be some specific guidance, a clear statement which says what is covered and what is not covered, because, as it was said, agents are still completely confused on the whole issue.
Now, Lindsay, you listened today to the debate on the future of ABTA. What was your view on it?
It's the same old story. There's never any conclusion. We've had a fantastic debate in there with some really valid points, but where do we go from here? There was no conclusion on the debate.
Well, you're right, there's a lot of people arguing, but where do you think ABTA should go from here?
I think ABTA should take control of the situation and decide who they're supporting in the industry and take a stance and make some clear positive moves towards the future.
Now, Calls Online is a company of home workers, and we've seen home working really grow in the last few years. Why do you think that is?
It gives people the opportunity to be in control of their own destiny rather than working in a high street agency, working for the VIs where they're told who to sell and what to sell. Home working gives people the opportunity to work from home the hours they want to work, but also sell the products they want to sell and earn as much as they want to earn.
Now, it's an important sector of the market, but when you talk to home workers, do you feel that they identify with ABTA or that they're not really feeling as part of the association?
Obviously, my home workers at Calls Online are part of the Global Travel Group, so they're not ABTA members. And with recruiting home workers for Calls Online, it's certainly nothing that's ever raised. They're equally happy to be part of Global or a consortia rather than have ABTA bonding behind them.
And your company, are you in expansion mode at the moment?
We are very much in expansion. In addition to being able to sell our own products and Triton products, Calls Online concentrate on fulfilment for other operators in the industry. So we offer fulfilment services for their out-of-hours calls and evenings, weekends, and any excess calls that they can't handle in their own call centre.
With me is Paul Evans, formerly a managing director of one of the big vertically integrated companies. Now he has his own company, lowcostbeds.com, and was involved heavily in the debate on the future of ABTA. One of the issues that came up was financial protection. Paul, it's a bit of a dog's dinner, isn't it?
Oh, it's an absolute shambles. I mean, my own personal view is actually that ABTA should just become a trade body and should remove all of its financial protection, and that you should move all the financial protection issues to an enlarged CAA or a widened CAA under the Department of Transport, so that you end up having a regulatory body and you end up having a trade body. And I actually think they should stop making announcements at all until they sort it out between them and actually get in a room and actually properly sort it out, because what's going on at the moment is borderline shambles. Because they're all trying to score points. They've got to stop trying to score points. and actually need to sit and influence government, because this will only get changed at the end of the day through primary legislation. Now, at the moment, the government just don't seem to be interested.
Now, we talked there about the possibility of a levy and how much that would be simpler, etc. But Richard Jackson from the CAA says we're in cloud cuckoo land. The government just isn't interested in it.
Well, I'm actually quite sympathetic, because at the end of the day, he's just trying to enforce the laws as they currently stand. But the problem you have is the laws as they currently stand don't cover the industry in its totality, and they have to do that. They have to be changed. And the only way we're going to do that is by influencing Brussels, by influencing the government, in order to actually have a look at consumer protection. As it currently stands, I would argue the government isn't interested in consumer protection, because you've got one side of the industry, the scheduled airline, that doesn't have any, and you've got others operating under the package travel regulation, which are being asked to effectively fund it. And I don't think that's fair. And I think the sooner that we get one voice, joined up thinking between ABTA, between the FTO, between the CAA and any other interested bodies, and preferably less bodies, frankly, to go and influence government and properly get them to actually listen to what the industry is saying, because we're all interested in protecting the consumer. And we have failed. We have absolutely failed for the last God knows how many years to actually persuade the government to do. And it's time that we actually did it on the back of the recent court case. They should stop fighting, get together now, stop sending confusing interpretations of the law, and get it sorted.
Now, you talk about joining forces together. Isn't it about time that ABTA and the Federation of Tour Operators simply became one body?
Oh, absolutely. It's jobs for the boys. We know that. It's just jobs for the boys. People protecting their own positions. And I think that my own view is that the FTO does a lot of good stuff on health and safety. I think ITT does a lot of good things on youth and training. And both those organisations should come under the umbrella of ABTA in order to make ABTA the force that we all want it to be.
And we're here to debate the future of ABTA. You've talked about some of the things that should happen and going forward. If they don't take heed, do you think there's a very real danger that ABTA won't be around in the future?
I think it is a danger. I mean, I think part of the change, they've been forced to accept some of the changes of the big operators moving away from TOMS, because if they didn't, they would have pulled out of ABTA, and their subscriptions are too important. So they need to be more inclusive. They need to include the new online players, and a lot of the people who aren't currently at the bed banks, who aren't currently members of ABTA, and make sure they actually become a trade body, influencing and setting the framework under which we operate, but have a separate regulatory body in order to police it. You cannot be judge, jury and police. You can't.
Now, another issue that came up during the debate was the amount of money that has been lost through fraud and some of the money that has been spent by the association. Do you feel that they've wasted a lot of money and should be held accountable?
I think they should be held accountable. I think that it's difficult in a sense for bureaucrats and technocrats effectively to often move as... It's very easy to point fingers after the event. I think that said, David Speakman was up here as part of the panel. I think he made some valid points about the industry knowing that there were some potential losses, and there may have been some questions as to whether ABTA moved fast enough or not. But I think, it's easy, as I said, to point fingers after the event. We are where we are. They have a big enough fund. There's enough money sitting in there to actually create a proper lobbying group to put some proper financial protection for our industry. I personally believe the customer should elect whether they want to have it or not. That's a personal view. I think that in the same way, if you go and buy any other product, you decide whether you want to be covered or whether you don't want to be covered. But it needs to be clear. And until such time as we're able to convince government to do that, I think you're going to continue to have confusion, and through confusion people exploit the loopholes, because you don't have a level playing field. And the sooner we get one, the better.
And on stage you said you were worried that the current people in charge may not be able to take it forward. Would you like to see a new chief executive at ABTA?
No, I've actually got a lot of time for Mark. I think he's been brave in some of the moves that he's made. I also think that Richard Jackson and the CAA has been in a very difficult position, because has not had the full support of government, and I think they have the will. I think that what we now need to do is make sure they get together, stop issuing announcements competing with each other effectively, and with the help of some of the major operators and some of the major players in the industry, get an effective voice into government and demand to government that effectively we get heard.
So a stormy opening session here in Marbella at the 2006 ABTA convention. In our next show, the ABTA Chief Executive Mark Tanzer gets his chance to face down his critics in our exclusive series of online reports broadcast in association with utravel.com.
I hope you enjoyed our coverage from here in Marbella. Tune in tomorrow to see what ABTA's got to say.